Kenya's public debt has been increasing at an alarming rate in the last 8 years. As of June this year, our public debt was 6.6 trillion shillings. But how does debt affect the citizen beyond the common statements such as each Kenyan citizen, including those being born now, owes creditors at least 139,000 shillings due to public debt? So, beyond the cliches, what does it mean when the government keeps on getting loans?
Lakini lazima tutafute pesa kwa sababu zetu hazitoshi, ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba the needs of the people are also met. But we must borrow, which I agree, in a manner that we are sure we can actually service the debt that we incur.
From 2013 to 2019, we've seen our public debt go from almost 1.2 trillion to about 6 trillion.
You see, the whole economy is crumbling.
When government has no revenues to invest in the economy, it means that everyone is going to suffer, and most of the time, it's the young people and the vulnerable people in the economy who will suffer most.
Is Kenya on the verge of a debt distress? What is the implication of that moving forward? Africa Uncensored digs deep into these questions, seeking answers and highlighting how the appetite for foreign debt-financed infrastructure has devastated various sectors in the country.
My name is Ken Gishinga. The issue of Kenyan debt has been a long journey. And let me first start by saying that debt in of itself is not a problem. Almost every country in the world has debt. Typically for any government, debt is normally paid through taxes. There are only two ways governments raise revenue. One is through taxes. So the big challenge we are facing in terms of managing our public debt is the economy has not been doing very well. So a lot of businesses are not able to provide the taxes that government needs to be able to service its debt.
In 2013, Kenya's debt was 1.8 trillion shillings when Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto took over the government from President Kibaki. The debt has tripled to about 6.7 trillion shillings in just 7 years, even surpassing the recommended debt to GDP ratio. The debt to GDP ratio is used to compare what a nation owes with what it produces. It also indicates the ability of the country to pay back its debt. The higher the debt to GDP ratio climbs, the higher the risk of defaulting on the debt. According to Treasury, the debt to GDP ratio is at 65.7%. IMF recommends that the ratios of public debt to GDP should not be higher than 40% for developing countries. Kenya first breached the debt threshold in 2016 when it rose to 50.6% of GDP. But why should this be of concern when some developed nations have surpassed their debt to GDP ratios by triple-digit numbers?
Of course we're in debt.
So how do we deal with that?
By the way, when you talk about our debt, do you know what the debt of the Japanese government is? Or what is Japan's debt?
I'm not really concerned about
Do you know what the Kenyan debt is?
Yes.
What is it?
As I said.
What is it?
Right now, some figures at 4.5 trillion shillings.
Don't
4.8.
talk about, I said, as a percentage of GDP. Talk like an economist.
56% of GDP.
Of GDP?
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
What is Japan's debt?
I'm not in Japan, so I'm not concerned about Japan.
Japan's debt
Kenya.
is over 100% of their GDP. Japan. Okay? All right? Because, my friend, the issue of debt is not about incurring debt. It's about how you use that debt.
A lot of people say that the US has over 100% debt to GDP. Japan has the highest in the world, 200% GDP. But we forget that these countries, first of all, borrow in their own currency. The US will borrow in dollars and Japan will borrow in yen. So in the worst case scenario, they can really print their way out of that debt.
Out of the 6.7 trillion shillings debt, foreign currency debt is 3.5 trillion shillings, up from 569.1 billion shillings in June 2010. Kenya's largest foreign currency lender is China, which accounts for over 70% of the external bilateral debt with a portfolio of approximately $6.2 billion, which largely come on semi-concessional terms.
If it's non-concessional, most probably it's a commercial loan that will come, like some of them we saw coming from China, where you need to pay them in less than 10 years. You'll begin paying the interest within less than 10 years. And that's what many people have been asking questions. So if government invests, say, in a road or invests in a railway line, would you say that within 6 to 10 years, the investment has been plowed back into the economy to the extent that we are able to collect taxes to begin to repay that loan? It's not possible. It does not make economic sense. So my name is Kenneth Okwaro. I work with the Africa Center for People, Institutions and Society. Our organization does research in public policy and analysis around how governments implement policies and how they impact the lives of their citizens.
The main difference when one borrows in foreign currency such as the dollar as opposed to borrowing in local currency such as the shilling is that the borrower is exposed to currency risk. So, for instance, if today a young farmer by the name Wanjiku takes 1,000 loan from a bank at the exchange rate of 100 shillings, she will take home 100,000 shillings. When her loan matures in a year, what Wanjiku will pay back will depend on the changes in the value of the dollar against the shilling. If the shilling gained against the dollar and the exchange rate is 90 shillings, she will be smiling to the bank because she will pay back 90,000 shillings plus the interest. However, if the shilling weakened against the dollar to the rate of 110, she will pay back 110,000 shillings plus the interest. So, when Kenya borrows in foreign currency, we are exposed to such dynamics, and in current times we have been on the losing end as the shilling has not been gaining but weakening.
Problem with debt is if you use it to consume. All right? I am confident that Kenyan debt, which is why it is so solid, is for infrastructural development that will benefit not just our generation, but future generations.
Are we borrowing for the right reasons? In many cases, the initial reasons why it begins are very noble. We want a road that is going to connect this place to this other place to increase, movement and transportation and stuff. But eventually, either we change those plans, we adjust them, we increase the costs, then it just becomes weird.
My name is Chang Ping, a freelancer. I'm writing for Deutsche Welle, Germany, and Upper Daily in Hong Kong. China has bigger ambitions and longer-term plans. There is an official document called China's Second Africa Policy Paper, published in December of 2015. In this lengthy document, we can find the words economy, culture, society, political parties, governments, military, technology, almost everything except democracy, freedom, and human rights. This is the essential core of the Chinese model. The point is not so much the debt trap itself, but how much power African people and African countries have to negotiate.
Most of the China loans are for building infrastructure, and they come with conditions such as Chinese contractors are given the contracts to implement the projects. Some of the projects implemented through the loans include the Lamu Port 3 bus for 48 billion shillings and the SGR project, Mombasa to Nairobi, which cost 327 billion shillings. The latter has been an emotive and controversial subject among many Kenyans.
I think the challenge most economists have wrapping their mind around it is the fact that over $3 billion was spent to it, about 320 billion shillings. When people benchmark with other countries, it becomes very expensive. When you look at Ethiopia, even if the landscape of Ethiopia is different, but generally if you look at SGRs around the world and look at it per kilometer basis, people feel we paid way too much.
Despite growing concern about the cost of the SGR, the Nairobi-Mombasa project was completed and launched in May 2017, just 3 months to the general election. This came with a promise of a better and prosperous future for the port of Mombasa and a boost in the economy of the coastal region.
And the investments that we're making can only increase the level of business for Mombasa Port and increase the number of people who will be employed in this port. That will increase the prosperity of the people of Mombasa.
Even though they were promised a brighter future as a result of the SGR, this was far from the truth.
Mimi naitwa Salim Karama. Mimi ni mfanyaji biashara wa transport na makazi yangu ni Mombasa. Tumekuwa na kazi ya transport kwa muda mrefu, manake ilikuwa ni ya wazee. Lakini kufikia miaka hii ya karibuni 2-3, mambo yalibadilika kibiashara Mombasa. Kwa hivyo tumepata madhara makubwa kibiashara transport kutokana na wakati SGR ama serikali ikilazimisha makasha yapakiliwe kwa njia ya treni.
In a bid by the government to increase its revenues to enable payment of the SGR loan, the Ministry of Transport gave a directive that all goods from the port of Mombasa had to be transported through the SGR to the Nairobi Inland Container Depot. This directive was later on reversed, but the Mombasa economy has never recovered.
What we came to engage the national government about is how do we handle the transition? What mitigation measures should be put in place so that the residents, the business people, stakeholders can live side by side with the SGR.
And we said that because the directive had been issued by the CG of KRA and the MD of KPA without full consultations, within 2 days actually, we directed that it be reversed and it remains suspended.
However, the business community still feels the impact of the directive several months after the CS claimed to have reversed it.
Imeniathiri mimi kama mimi Salim Karama. Kuna vijana ambao ilikuwa nimewaajiri kazi katika hizi truck. Mimi nilikuwa na truck 2. Truck moja zimekaa, imebidi nipeane mtu ile kichwa. Ndio ile kichwa nilikwambia nilipeana kwa sababu hakuna kazi.
Salim laments that he had a thriving business before the introduction of the SGR cargo train, but that is not the case anymore.
Mimi sahi kama vile nilivyokuambia, hakuna income yoyote ambayo mimi napata kwa muda wa 1.5 mpaka dakika hii. Hii gari unaona hapa ni yangu. Hii gari ilikuwa na insurance comprehensive, imekufa hapa ndani ya yadi. Kwa hivyo mimi sahi ni mwasirika mkubwa sana katika hali ya kiuchumi, na yote imechangiwa na viongozi wetu ambao wanafanya ubwenyenye ama ule ukoloni mamboleo.
My name is Dennis Ombok. I'm the CEO for Kenya Transporters Association. The times are very hard with transporters because actually most of the transporters don't have the job and most of them close shops. You know, if you have a truck, the truck only makes money when the turnaround is high. When the truck's idling, there's no money for that truck. It wears off. So sometimes you may be able to service it and it's not doing anything. So you service with good parts, but then there's no money that it brings. So these trucks, we need them to be on the road.
A research conducted by the University of Nairobi School of Business in Mombasa last year revealed that Mombasa's economy will decrease by over 16% and over 8,100 jobs lost as a result of transporting cargo from the port of Mombasa through the SGR. The report goes further on its finding and states, I quote, "In the event the proposal to convey all up-country cargo through the SGR, then the implication to the port city of Mombasa's GDP and employment sustainability will be serious."
Niko na almost 1 year sijafanya kazi mahali. Majina yangu ni Ismail Rashid, truck driver. Hiyo ndio kazi yangu. Naona. ambapo hakuna mtu ambaye atakakae bila kazi, ushaona. Lakini unajikuta huko kazini na si watu ndio umetaka usiwe kazini, ushaona. Changamoto moja ni kama hivyo sasa, kazi pia zimepungua, ushaona. Kwa sababu mwenyewe nasema, sisemi yani siwezi jisifu hata profession, but I can say I'm a profession because nishafanya kazi hata nje. Nishafanya Saudia as a truck driver. Ushaona. Nimezunguka Saudia yote ile. All capital cities kwa tuna. Ushaona. Sasa I don't deserve to stay without a job for 1 year, ushaona, as a professional driver. Unaona. Tena in your country. Mpaka sasa hata mimi nilikuwa niondoke niende Kuwait.
Rashid had prepared to leave the country in search of opportunities in the Middle East. However, just as soon as his visa came, the corona pandemic hit the world and his plans failed, so his only alternative was to continue looking for jobs locally.
Unaenda kwa play mahali tajiri, unakuta kwambia angalia gari hizi zimesimama. Paka inabidi asampigia simu tu kila saa, vipi bosi bado upo? Paka anakuambia wewe hapa bado kijana wangu, lakini angalia kwingine kokote ambako ukipata kwingine wefanya. 1 year sasa siko kazi, paka sasa siko kazi. Na uko na family. Na unajua mahoma hayaulizi ile kugonjeka ile. Mtu kwa mgonjwa haiulizi ati una pesa ndio nikuje hapo nikuletee ugonjwa, nilete homa malaria, unaona.
Rashid believes that the SGR cargo train is the genesis of his problems.
Ni SGR of course. Yes, kwa sababu there is no time ati shendo za kazi mahali tena katika kampuni kama 3 ama 4. Ama hata mwenyewe ukikaa ukitembea katika hizi yadi as a driver unakuta trucks zimesimama hapo.
Though living in 2 different estates separated by the Mombasa Central Business District, Gabriel Nyange and Rashid Ismail have 2 things in common. They both worked in the transport sector and both are now jobless.
I'm the breadwinner of a very young family because I just got married 2 years ago and had my first daughter just approximately a year ago because she's now 7 months old. Okay, upande wa kazi, watu kama sisi tumethirika sana. Manake kwa sababu hii SGR ilivyoanza kutoa kazi kutoka Mombasa to Nairobi, imebidi makampuni ama kampuni zetu kwa like me personally nimekuwa affected. Tumekuwa retrenched, tumepewa barua, turudi nyumbani. And unapata mtu kama mimi nilikuwa na loan already na kampuni. So unapata ile miaka yenye nimefanya only few years. Nikianza fanya clearance na wao, still ile pesa yangu inaenda yote kwa loan. I'm just going home with nothing.
Gabriel worked in a container freight station, or popularly known as a CFS, which is a warehouse where cargo belonging to various importers and exporters is consolidated before being imported or exported.
I remember in my company tulikuwa approximately 341 people. And right now, the company downsized its operation to 41 people. So unapata majority of the people have been negatively affected by the SGR, manake tumeenda manyumbani. Na wengi tulianza pia mabiashara nini ipo, so unapata pia biashara kwa ujumla haziendi.
His wife was also employed in the transport sector and just like Gabriel, she too lost her job. Gabriel now drives a taxi and he says it does not generate enough income to sustain his young family.
Unajua wakati uko kazi, okay, you are guaranteed like each and every month, kama ni monthly kama ni weekly unalipwa each and every month uko na payslip. Payslip mnajipanga wewe na familia yako venye mtaishi according to the size of your payslip. Lakini right now you wanna find you have nothing. You have nothing to bring home. You have nothing left for you. So unapata maisha na kwa ngumu sana.
CFSs have been among the worst hit by the SGR, sending home thousands of their staff. This was occasioned by the reduction in volumes and revenues.
My name is Khalif Khalifa. I am chair of the board of Muhuri, a human rights organization which is based in Mombasa. Companies can afford to move away from Mombasa, but people cannot afford relocating from Mombasa to other counties. And this is not right. It is unconstitutional. You have CFSs, almost about 21 or 22 of them. Now they are rendered useless. Okay, big merchant companies now they are closing or relocating to other ports like Dar es Salaam. Now all these thousands of people will lose their jobs. definitely they are lose. They've already lost, they're going to lose more and more and more. Okay? We don't understand why the government should do such a thing like that.
The point there is that businesses that would normally thrive when the tax environment is favorable, it's suddenly not safe or it's not viable.
So, how much do truck owners lose when their trucks lie idle in the yards?
I'm Douglas Chirchir, Operations Manager, Linear East Africa. We handle both import, export, FCL, LCL shipments. For one movement, one truck can transport 1 40-foot container from Mombasa to Nairobi at around 85,000 Kenyan shillings. And per week, one truck can even go 3 trips per week. Now, we have our trucks which are still lying Shell, Jomvu Meritini for 2 weeks. There is no any movement, so you can calculate. You are losing more than 500,000 per week.
Hii ni NTSA. Wameniambia Dear Salim, Said, annual inspection sticker for your vehicle have expired. It is an offense to operate a vehicle without a valid inspection sticker. You are required to log into your team's account and book for inspection for immediate effect. Just imagine, mimi sahi gari zangu zimelala. Mimi ndugu yangu, kwanza naweza kukwambia saizi gari yangu haifanyi kazi. Niko na gharama kwanza. Serikali haitaki kujua gari yako ilikuwa imelala, haikulala. Ni lazima nilipe advance tax. Ni lazima niende nifanyie inspection. Every month mimi nachajua 5,000. Itabidi niongee na owner, pengine anionee huruma na anaona kazi hakuna, aniwevie hii charges ya hii yard. Sababu gari sasa ni mwaka mmoja na nusu ama na miezi kadhaa imelala, na si mimi peke yangu.
Unlike CFS owners who can retrench, close down shop or move to Nairobi and Naivasha, for truck owners is a catch-22 situation, as remaining with the truck is a costly affair. But then again, selling it at this time cannot fetch more than half its market value.
Kwa saa hizi hata nikitaka uza gari, saa hii gari pamoja na trailer ni 3.5, 2.8. Lakini kwa sasa nikitaka kuiuza hata 1.5 mimi sitapata kwa hii gari, kwa sababu hakuna mtu anafanya biashara. Leo ilikuwa gari ukienda kuichukua zile XUK unachukua kichwa kwa 4.5, 5 million. Kwa saa hii ukienda huko gari zimekaa hata zinamea kutu, mtu anakuambia hata 3.5. Hakuna mtu anataka kununua malori.
Reasons behind, we are still bewildered why the government should do such a thing. Because taking away services from one county to the other, it means you are depriving the economic condition of that county for the benefit of other county. So there are people going to benefit in Nairobi, while people of Mombasa are deprived of the economy.
Niambie pale kuna kazi niende. Maana sisi wote hatuwezi kura Mombasa twende Naivasha. Kwa majina mimi ninaitwa Mama Chebeti ama Felista. Mimi ni mwanabiashara. Niko na hii kibanda changu yenye mnakiona hapa mbele yenu. Ni kibanda ya chakula pakubwa sana. Mimi nilikuwa napika kama bandari 3 kwa siku ama bandari 4 ya chakula, lakini kwa sasa napika kama bandari 1. Na hata hiyo moja kwisha ni shida. Nilikuwa na wafanyikazi 6. Ambapo hao wafanyikazi 6 kila mmoja ukumlipa 300 kwa siku. Hiyo ni pesa ngapi? Kwa sasa siwezi kumanage kuwalipa. Mpaka nichukue kama 4 ndio waingie, wengine watume waende hofu. Kwa siku nilikuwa ninaweza kwenda nyumbani na 15,000 kama nimenunua kila kitu. Lakini kwa sasa siwezi nikaziona. Kama ni kwenda nyumbani labda 2,000 ama 3,000 ndio naweka mfukoni ndio niondoke. Na bado sijanunua stock. Tumejaribu kulilia serikali yetu, lakini hatuoni kana kwamba serikali inatusikiza. Sisi ni wazazi. Tumezaa, tuko na watoto. Watoto wetu wanasoma. Lakini kwa sasa tunaona pahali penye tunaelekea watoto wetu hawataweza kusoma, na hasa katika kaunti ya Mombasa. Kweli unaona kijana anakuja kwako anakuambia mama sijakula kitu tangu asubuhi. Nikatie tu hata chapati mbili tu, nikule tu, nishikilie tumbo. Na hana lolote ya kukupa. Unamwangalia, unamhurumia kwa kuwa wewe ni mzazi. Lakini ukimpa leo, kesho utampa. Huwezi kumpa kila siku. Mwaka ujao kama vile wanasema watapeleka mzigo yote iende Naivasha. Nafikiri Mombasa itaisha completely. Hakuna kitu itabaki Mombasa. Na hao watu wote watahama. Wale watabaki labda ni wenye kuzaliwa. Na hao wenye kuzaliwa pia watakula nini? Na hizi mijengo zote yenye wamejenga huku watafanyia nini? Ninaomba kabisa kama Uhuru anaweza. Hayue kana kwamba yeye ni binadamu kama sisi. Yeye halizaliwa kama sisi. Sisi tulimchagua kama kiongozi. Na kama inawezekana, haangalie. Hii kitu si ya mtu, atakaa miaka yake itaisha, hatawacha mwingine atakuja kutawala pia na sheria zake. Lakini yeye asiwache machozi ya watoto imulilie kwa kulala njaa.
Details of the SGR contract have always been a thorny issue for the government, especially with a growing concern that the Port of Mombasa might have been signed off as collateral for the loan.
The Chinese government themselves say that that is nonsense, that it doesn't exist. Yeah, I am telling you, it doesn't exist. All right? You want a copy of the contract? My friend, I'll get it to you tomorrow. And if you prove your point that it exists, that there is anywhere, yeah, then you will have a point.
Okay.
Tafadhali jameni, hii mambo ya porojo, jameni, hii ni watu ya porojo.
Even though the president promised to make public the SGR contracts in December 2018, this is yet to happen. Instead, Kenyans have been treated to shocking leaks of the contract.
Revelations that Kenyans were shortchanged during negotiations for the construction of the standard gauge railway.
Details seen by NTV show the exaggerated cost for goods and services procured by the parties that signed the initial agreement in 2012.
In the Pillars of Greed expose by Daily Nation, Kenyans were given a glimpse of what cost might have made the taxpayer incur the 327 billion shilling cost. For instance, the grass used for landscaping cost 1 billion shillings. Furnishing of the chief engineer's offices cost 57 million shillings. 2 laserjet printers cost 513,700 shillings, yet the market price for the same range between 40 to 50,000 shillings. 45-seater shuttle buses for staff was bought at an inflated cost of 25 million shillings. A state-of-the-art 45 bus would cost between 10 to 15 million shillings. The taxpayer also coughed up 239 million shillings for entertainment for the expatriates as they worked on the SGR project. Also, in the special audit report by the Auditor General on the account of the National Land Commission, the Auditor General identified irregularities and weaknesses of the SGR land acquisition process. For instance, the National Land Commission paid 221 million shillings to Kebeiwo Investment, a private company, for 4 properties that were along the Embakasi Station Railway Reserve, which means they bought back land that belonged to Kenya Railways. According to the audit report, a further 4.5 billion shillings was used to acquire land that might have been public land. Even though it is a common belief at the coast that the people of Nakuru County are the biggest beneficiary of the recently launched Inland Dry Port, this is not the case, at least as of now, according to some residents of Nakuru County.
My name is Benson Masharia. I'm the chairman of Friends of Devolution within Nakuru County. We had a lot of expectation when it comes to the dry port, because when we heard that they are coming to Nakuru, we knew that we are talking about job creation. The dusty town of Maimahiu was to be transformed to be a major hub for the business within Nakuru County. We knew that other adjacent infrastructure like the hospitality industry, we look at the infrastructure in terms of housing, we look at in terms of the whole issue, in terms of businesses that accompany the dry port that we see in Mombasa, they were to come to Nakuru. But to a large extent, things have not been the way we expected.
However, the business community differs from Benson, as explained by the Chamber of Commerce Nakuru Chapter Chair Stephen Thuo Njuguna.
We welcome the dry port. The coming of the dry port, many think As our president said, it's a project from nowhere to nowhere. But we as Chamber and the business community around here, we started seeing some many benefits. One, it has given appreciation in land. The areas around the port, like they were saying nowhere, used to go at a very low price. An acre could go to 300,000. But right now, and just a start, an acre is going for 2 to 3 million shillings. So already the landowners there have seen the difference in appreciation of their land, and it is still going up.
Juguna admits that the benefits are yet to trickle down to the larger community. But he is optimistic.
We take it as a source of employment, because in all those godowns going to be built there, in all the activities between the port and the industrial park, labor is needed. So locals stands a chance to benefit from employment.
So, what happens to the people of coastal counties who depended on the port for their livelihoods?
I wish them the best, but they can expand. They have another port, the Lamu port that is coming up on the northern corridor. They'll still have their share.
We cannot kill one economy and come and improve economy of a different area. Yes, we come from Nakuru, but our idea is not that we kill the Mombasa economy and then we come and uplift Nakuru's economy.
By the way, today, leo hii tukiongea, yeah, 2018, ile tulikuwa tumekubaliana na wale ambao ni wa China ambao walitupatia hii mkopo, tulikuwa tuwe tunasafirisha 6 trains kati ya Mombasa na Nairobi. Leo hii, my friend, tumefika kiwango ya 2020 where we are moving approximately 11 to 12 trains every day. My friends, we are ahead of our payment schedule.
However, even as the president boasted of Kenya being ahead in the repayment schedule, it has been revealed that since its launch in 2017, the SGR has posted a combined operating loss of 21.68 billion shillings. This operation loss has caused the Kenya Railway Company to default an estimated 40 billion shillings payout to China's Africa Star Railway Operation Company, which runs both passenger and cargo services on the SGR. Back in Mombasa, for Rashid and Gabriel, life has been a roller coaster of hard days and tough times since the day they lost their respective jobs.
Mimi bwana naweza sema najimudu through donors bwana. Friends. Kwa sababu as a driver I have many friends. You see? Kuna wale ambao wamebahatika bado kazini, labda wanaenda ile wanapanda, anajua huyu driver mwenzangu hayuko vizuri, hivyo una survive. Imagine na kusurvive huko, sio ati every day utakuwa unakisha unakunywa chai.
Ni kusurvive tu, ni kusurvive. Ukipata kitu yote unafanya, like right now nimefuatana na ndugu zangu wengine, vijana wenzangu, tunaendesha magari huko, tuko na gari za car hires, hivyo tunazunguka tu tukitafuta clients, tukiendesha, tukipata riziki. Lakini sasa unapata pesa kama ile unapata tu ni pesa ya kukula. There's nothing that you can do with that money because you don't get any extra shillings out of that.
Earlier this year, several residents of Mombasa started weekly protests over the issue of the SGR. The protests would often turn ugly as the police lobbed tear gas canisters to disperse the protesters and engaged them in running battles for hours, culminating in arrest of several protesters.
Wakati nikianza familia I had a lot of goals in my mind. Mabiashara nimefungua. Biashara nimekuwa nazo. Lakini zimecollapse kwa sababu wateja hakuna. So nilikuwa nishaona in the near future, maana loan zangu nilichukua kuna loan nimechukua actually last year. Nafaa nilipe for 3 years. So napata back, nimerudi nyumbani na mzigo. Badala nirudi na relief.
Unaweza kopa, hata mtu anaweza kuwa na ile morale kukupa pesa akijua uko kazini utamrudishia. Lakini sasa ndio hivyo. Wewe paka inabidi ufanyeje ndio. Waanza kula miti ya madamu, Kilifi. Une malaria itoke.
Ndugu yangu, ndio sababu mimi naongea na machungu sana. Kwa sababu nimekuambia hakuna aibu mtu akisema ukweli. Paka saizi mimi sijakula chakula. Mimi paka saizi leo itokee emergency yoyote, sina uwezo wa kupeleka mtoto wangu hospitali mzuri. Kwa hivyo ndugu yangu, ni machungu makubwa sana. Wewe ikiwa unaanza kuenukia, wewe ikiwa unajaribu, alafu unakuja unakuta serikali yako ndio inakugandamiza.
Everyone out there will tell you that things are hard. And it did begin with COVID, did it? From like September last year, everyone was complaining. Businesses shutting down by 7. Zimefungwa. Everyone has gone. Everyone tells you pockets are dry. Meaning money is not in the economy. Money is somewhere else. And perhaps that's where the country or people in this country need to train their eyes. Where is that money? Because the KRA taxes people.
I think Mombasa tukiendelea hivi hakuna future. Ile kusema tu ukweli, hakuna future kwa sababu initially we were too dependent on tourism. Tourism ndio hiyo imekufa. It is totally dead. Tukakuja evolve, tukakuwa tuna depend na port operations. Port operations ndio hii, na unasikia bado wanataka kufungua Naivasha na bado ya Kisumu pia inafunguliwa.
The cost of the SGR has been a controversial issue for long, but are we getting value for the money that we injected in the project?
This rail does not pay. Pay and take, it doesn't. So it takes a lot of money from taxpayers' money. Those money should have gone to the education, should go to the medical, hospitals, okay, clean water, good roads. Now they have taken away from Wananchi and give it to the Chinese. And this is not right.
We Chinese have a term for this, which we call overload clause. Overload clause. It means unfair contracts. It is the bullying of the weak by the powerful. They want to control more.
The China loan has not only negatively impacted the coastal economy, but has had an impact on the entire Kenyan economy. Even though the government reports GDP growth, the common mwananchi is not feeling the growth, and businesses have suffered as a result of tough economic times occasioned by heavy taxes.
Because the tax rate is high. And why is the tax rate high? Because government is looking for alternative sources of revenue. Why? Because what we normally collected, we have taken a third of it, 900 billion, to external sources where we got debt. The problem with the debt is that it did not do what it was supposed to do.
Some of these taxes that affect the common mwananchi directly include introduction of 8% VAT on petroleum products, increased excise tax on cash transfer from 12% to 20%, and that of calls and data from 10% to 15%, increased capital gains tax from 5% to 12.5% for betting and gaming winners. A 3% monthly turnover tax was introduced this year, targeting small-scale businesses like mama mbogas, kiosks, and salons. This new tax was highly contested since the tax was charged on total generated revenue, irrespective of whether they made a profit or loss. This meant for every 1,000 shillings they generated as revenue, they had to pay 30 shillings to the taxman at the end of the month. Luckily, the small-scale businesses are now exempted through the tax relief bill introduced in April to cushion them from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Companies have also been affected by the debt in various ways, such as the government imposing new taxes and increasing existing taxes to generate more revenues.
For any business to be able to thrive, it needs to have tax breaks. Anytime you put a lot of barriers in the ways of small businesses, it means the entrepreneurs will choose to close shop and to go into something else.
The Chinese loans also come with a lot of bilateral collaboration and businesses. However, the trade between Kenya and China is not balanced. There is a big trade imbalance between Kenya and China, as Kenya imports a lot from China, but China imports very little from Kenya. Chinese imports have more than doubled over the last 5 years, growing from 167.2 billion shillings in 2012 to 390 billion shillings in 2017. As a result, Chinese goods accounted for 22.6% of all Kenya's import in 2017. Kenya's export to China was 5.3 billion shillings in 2012, and it grew to 10 billion shillings in 2016, but declined to 9.9 billion shillings in 2017. The trade imbalance is also caused by the importation of goods that can be manufactured and produced in Kenya, such as ginger, fish, and cement. The importation of such goods is a direct competition with local industries.
When government takes loans, let's say you take a loan from China or from another big country, those loans usually have got terms. Some of them nobody even talks about. So you remember last year when we were talking about some fish story, where fish was coming from China and people were saying that we also are fishing, and why are you allowing fish? You're going to affect our, our businesses. But the government was insistent on allowing that fish to come in. I think maybe it's still coming in. The reason is that there have been those conditions behind it that make the government want to allow that to go on.
Katika hili ziwa la Victoria, samaki mkubwa ni ule anaitwa mbuta.
Titus Mulwa has been fishing in Lake Victoria for the past 20 years. The past 3 years have changed the fishing dynamics in Lake Victoria.
Kuwa kwamba upande wa kwanza ni kwamba vile soko ya samaki pia ilikuja ikaingiliwa na soko na samaki kutoka nchi zingine zikaingia katika soko letu. Sasa mvuvi hajakuwa na maisha mazuri kwa sababu ile kidogo anapata hapati bei nzuri. Unaona, sasa hiyo ndio shida kubwa ambayo pia iko katika hili eneo. Sasa kama mimi binafsi, unajua kama nimeshika samaki wangu, nilikuwa najua nikifika pale nje nikuuziwa kina mama nitapata pesa nzuri ya kuweza kuniwezesha kupata kopo langu la uji, peleka mtoto shuleni kusoma, kupanga kulipa nyumba, rent na shughuli zingine za kibinadamu. Lakini sasa kuna samaki ambao wanasemekana wanatoka katika nchi ya China. Samaki hawa wameathiri pakubwa soko la samaki nchini Kisumu. Manake Kisumu imekuwa kama ni soko kubwa la samaki kutoka nchi ya China.
So hiyo samaki imetuweka mahali pabaya. Juu saa hii kitambo tulikuwa tunapata samaki ingine ukienda kuuza huko unaweza uza 600 700 kwa samaki moja. But saa hii hata ukienda kwa wamama wanalia bei.
Once cheap fish from China flooded the market, local fishermen started making losses as they could not match up the prices offered for imported fish.
Kama kitambo tulikuwa tunapata hata kama pieces 10. Tukipata pieces 10 unaweza uza hata 3,500, 4,000. But saa hii samaki moja yenye tulikuwa tunauza 650, saa hii wanachukua na 300. Ikiwa umefinya sana ni 350. So ndio maana sasa tunalia hiyo samaki imetuharibia biashara.
Some fishmongers have also devised a technique to deceive unsuspecting buyers that the fish they are buying is fresh from the lake by placing the imported fish right on the shores of Lake Victoria.
Hao ni majenti sababu wanafanya alfajiri, wametoa kwa container na zinakuja kwa sababu wanajua watu wanapenda samaki kutoka hapa. Sasa wao wakija utadhania ametoka nayo hapa na kumbe agenti wake alishaenda amechukua amebeba kwa gunia ikuwa katika barafu. Sasa anaiweka kwa maji ile barafu yeyuke. Sasa ukiona bila kujua kama wewe si mwenyeji utanunua moja kwa moja kwa kuamini kwamba imetoka ziwani. Lakini ikiwa wewe ni mwenyeji utaangalia gills. Ukiona gills zake zikiwa nyekundu ama zikionekana ziko na uhai unajua hiyo imetoka hapa ziwani. Lakini ukiona zikiwa pale ama ikionekana haina damu ndani, hiyo basi si ya kutoka ziwa la Victoria.
Michael believes that the government has sanctioned the flooding of fish from China to the Kenyan market.
Ni kama serikali inaleta hii samaki juu from China mpaka hapa, hesi kuja kama government hajajua hii mambo. So ni kama hii serikali ndio inaleta hizo samaki, ama kuna wengine wameingia na hao wanafanya combination. Ikiendelea hivi tutaona kama tutafanya kwa lake juu sasa hiyo ita affect. So itabidi watu wengi lake itabakia wachache, ile tu itabaki ile unapata samaki kidogo unaenda kukula kwa nyumba.
Samaki wakiendelea kutoka China, mimi naona kwamba sisi tutakuwa tumeisha. Manake bila shaka tutakuwa na lingine la kufanya. Ni kufunga virago na kutafuta labda namna nyingine ambayo hatujui itakuwa nini.
I think that we need to be more involved in these issues of public finance now more than ever, because we are feeling the pinch. I think perhaps no one is telling us that what you're feeling in your pocket has a lot of correlation with the bad debt policies that have been made over the past 7 to 10 years.
If the cycle of borrowing money and investing in mega projects sum at overpriced rates or unfavorable loan conditions, and if nothing is done about the unbalanced business between Kenya and China, Kenyans will continue facing tough economic times and many more will lose their businesses and jobs.